listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast by Dr. T. Michael W. Halcomb, Dr. Frederick J. Long, Dr. Mario Melendez, Dr. Jennifer Noonan, and J. M. Smith. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Proof Text. I'm Michael Halcomb and I'm here with J. M. Smith, founder of DiscipleDojo.org and Refugee Jiu-Jitsu and
trips everybody up.
And the grown-ups table, and it's got all kinds of things going on. So go to Facebook and check out his grown-ups table page, and then DiscipleDojo.org. That's a little tricky too. DiscipleDojo.org. He's just like coming up with tongue twisters for your.
I mean, I've been saying it for 10 years, so it rolls off my tongue, but I completely understand. Most people want to put ship in there, discipleship dojo, and I have to say no ship, just disciple dojo, a dojo for
ship.
Disciples.
All right. All right, right on. Well, check out his stuff. It's all free, and he's doing a lot of good work. So, JM, I hope you're doing well. We're gonna jump right in here, not waste any time. We're heading to the New Testament in this episode, if you're new to this, I'm gonna tell you how we do it. If you've been around for a little bit, you already know how we do it. This is 10 questions. That means we go to a Bible verse and just ask 10 questions of it. We each get 5. And typically, JM has no idea where we're going, so I spring it on him live in the moment. That is the case with this too. So if you're watching, I'm going to throw the text on the screen here. If you just listen, that's fine too. Where we are for this episode is Romans 15:7. Romans 15:7. And I'll read this in English, and then we'll get going. So Romans 15:7 says, "Accept one another then, just as Christ accepted you, in order to bring praise to God." All right, JM, I think you're up first. Or do you want me to go first? What do you want to do?
I forgot where we are, if it's my turn or not. I don't mind going first, so...
All right, go ahead then. 15:7.
All right. Well, as every preacher has hammered into people's skull whenever you see, at least the therefore, it's not in NIV, but I'm looking at the Greek, the dio, therefore, I guess NIV says accept one another then. So yeah, the then or therefore, every preacher always says you got to ask, what's it there for? In other words, what is this the culmination of that he just said, that this is giving because of this, now this. So what is he talking about in Romans 15 that this is the conclusion to?
What is the therefore? Yeah. Good. Very good. So my first question is this phrase proslamvaneste, that the NIV is translated accept, ACCEPT, not accept, but accept. Accept, and then allelus, accept one another. My first question is accept the best translation for proslamvaneste? Or proslamvaneste? Is this the best translation, or is there something that's better because this has a wider semantic range than simply accepting? Right? You can see that some of the take as a companion. I mean, that would really change the meaning, right? Therefore, take one another as a companion, just as Christ took y'all as a companions, or took y'all as companions. Or, does it have to do with admitting to one's group, or friendship. So what is accept the best term to define this with, translate this with?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I want to know more about that as well, because it's comparing you do for other people what Jesus has done for you. So what has Jesus done what is he saying Jesus has done for us? Like, does Jesus, I mean, piggybacking, does Jesus just accept us? That's kind of a very weak way of rendering the gospel. Yeah. What did Jesus do for us that Paul is saying this should be the this should be the paradigm for what you should be doing to one another?
Yes. So in light of our present day society, my second question, does the NIV's translation of accept one another just as Christ accepted you, does this carry the connotation of either implicit affirmation of one's lifestyle or an explicit affirmation of one's lifestyle? Oh, so and so is this way, or so and so does this. Like, we just got to accept them because that's what Jesus did for us. Just got to accept it. Is that really what Paul is attempting to connote here? Even to the degree that, just accepting someone's immoral behavior, sinful behavior is what we do because Christ accepted our sinful or moral behavior. So it actually ties back to your question: what is it that Christ did that we're supposed to be doing? Yeah.
I would want to know. Well, I would want to know who's. I think we have to ask who is the. I'm pull up NIV. Accept one another, as Christ accepted you. So, you, is it singular or plural? Is he talking to as Christ accepted y'all, or as Christ accepted you? Is this talking about because of my personal salvation that should motivate me to act in such a way? Or is it because of this community that Jesus bought with his blood? This is how we should be acting towards one another. Individualistic lens, or should we read this as a communal command?
Yeah. That's always frustrating in the English because the "you" is so ambiguous.
Yeah.
I feel like we should just make a decision. Like, somebody should just finally decide that singular "you" should just stay "you," and once and for all, like, plural "you" should be "y'all." Like,
As a Southerner, I wholeheartedly agree.
that just needs to be done already. Yeah, so because we do have that "umas" here, and that is the accusative second plural. It confuses. So great catch on that. I guess another question I have is the last prepositional phrase "is doxan tu theou," or the NIV translates it, "in order to bring praise to God." So I'm wondering if "for," like something like "for the glory," for God's glory, or "for the glory of God," "unto God's glory," the glory of God, that those translations denote something different than "in order to," right? If "in order to" is suggestive of some kind of either purpose or result. And so what this is doing by translating order to is probably purposive. And accept one another just as Christ accepted you with the purpose of bringing praise to God. And so accept one another then just as Christ accepted y'all for God's glory. Now that's different. So you see, boy, this raises another question for me. Is this, so I'm going to do a part B to my question. Sorry if I took yours, but this comma that the Greek is added after imas and the English is added after you, does it belong there? I want to erase it. I want to delete it. Just also as the anointed one accepted you for God's glory. Now that's very different. That's more resultative on what Christ did for God's glory versus what we are to do to somebody else with the purpose of bringing glory to God. Ooh, that I don't know if I'm parsing that out well enough for you guys to understand, but I hope I am.
So yeah, I think I can simplify what you're asking, and you can tell me if this is right. And this can be my question: are you asking if the I'm just going to read the NRSV, the updated edition, because I have that up. It says, "Welcome one another, therefore, just as Christ has welcomed you." And they do put the comma like the NIV, but they translate it for the glory of God instead of the NIV's in order to bring about prayer, whatever. So are you asking, did Christ welcome us for God's glory?
Right.
Or did God welcome us and therefore we should welcome one another because, or with the result that doing so glorifies God?
Exactly. Yep, that's it. So we'll both claim that question. I think a lot hinges on that, what we do with that dumb comma there.
That comma, yeah.
This is another thing. I will make this point just as people, because I've done a lot of translating of the New Testament, translated through Mark several times, translated through Revelation, translated through John. And one of the things I will say is that you always should pay attention to punctuation and never hesitate to call that punctuation into question because somebody put it there after the fact. So I'm always intrigued by punctuation. Yeah. So what is that? 3? We both got 3 now, I think.
I think so. I got lost. I got lost in the text.
Yeah. So that's a good place to get lost.
Well, I will. Yeah, right. I'll ask a fourth one then. So the allelus, so the one another. Who is that one another? Is this like one another in the general sense, like just who is my neighbor? Well, it's everybody. Or is this, hey, you church at Rome, members of the church at Rome? In other words, is this talking about how Christians are to act to other Christians or how Christians are to act to everyone in general? Or is it purposely ambiguous?
Dude, that's the best question so far. It's an excellent question. I wish I could answer because I have a theory about that, but that's an excellent question. I'm going back to the last prepositional phrase here again, is doxan tu theou, for the glory of God, or really just doxan tu theou, glory of God. I'm just curious about what is that? Like in particularly in Paul's thought, what is the glory of God? Like we had to define it. What is it? That's hard. That's harder to define than people might think. The glory of God. Yeah.
Yeah, glory is a word that is hard in English to define because it can have like vain notions, or it can have honorable notions, or it can just be about impressive, or it's a slippery word in both languages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my final question then is, once you decide what glory means, how does proslambano, how does welcoming, accepting, receiving, whatever we're being called to do, how exactly does that make God any more glorified than he already is? If his glory is already infinite, then how does what we do to one another in any way add to that?
Yes. So my last question tags on to that from a social scientific perspective, where social scientists, when they look at the New Testament, will often talk about two things. It was an honor shame society, but it was also a limited good society. And so when you compare those two things, the idea is that there's a limited amount of honor to go around. And like once I lose honor, I can pretty much never get that back. There isn't a limited amount of shame to go around. But so I'm wondering then, based on your question, how is God glorified any more or less? I'm curious about that from a social scientific perspective, and specifically this limited good. Is there a limited amount of honor that A, we can give God, and B, that God can have? So that may sound like a weird question, but you think of things that you can do to dishonor God or detract from God's glory. Do we actually have the ability to like subtract God's glory? Is that something that we can do? And similar, can we add to God's glory? That's kind of like a mind-blowing theological thing to think about.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are, hopefully that makes sense. These are the 10 questions, y'all, and we really should use y'all when we're talking about plural entities in the scriptures. So I'm gonna stop there. Check out and head over to glowshouse.com, discipledojo.org. Both great ministries going on, and man, thanks for watching. If you have an episode you'd like us to do this for, or some verses you'd like us to do this for, let us know. If you have your own thoughts on this verse, let us know, and share this with others. So JM, thanks, man.
My pleasure.
And to everybody watching and listening, thank you all. We hope that helps.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glow's House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glow's House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glowsahouse.com today. Glow's House, language resources for the global community.